Hello, welcome, or welcome back to Heretical Tarot. My name is Liz. I will be guiding you on this journey today. I haven't even actually chosen a deck. I just, the energy was available for me to make this little intro. I'm like, am I going to be an intro girly? Yeah, for the time being. At least for this series of readings, there is going to be an intro. I want to set intentions at the beginning, or at least share with you my intention that I always have for every single reading that I do, whether it's on YouTube or one-on-one personal readings. I am not psychic. I am not claiming to be. I do know these cards. And my intention is for the message to come through me, not from me. For your highest good, for my highest good. We're just two friends reading tarot together. So anyway, I do also try to share the meaning of each card because you have your own intuition, and obviously you're the person that's involved in your own life, right? So I share the meaning of each card so that you can discern, you can listen to your own guidance around each card for sorry, I closed my eyes and all of a sudden I got lost. I am naturally a blonde. I immediately heard blonde moment. Anyway, I closed my eyes and I got lost. Bro. Anyway, okay. So yeah, you have your own intuition. You're the one, right, that's involved in your own life. I want you to know the meanings of each card so that you can also receive your own message, right? Listen to yourself. The whole reason I even give tarot readings is for you to return to yourself, for you to listen to yourself, which is why I'm probably not telling you anything you don't know already, right? I'm more than likely confirming or affirming things for you. No doubt your intuition is see, told you. But also, I do think that is important. I think that's an important part because once you know for sure, right? Once you have that confirmation, it's that you can free up the energy for what's next. You have confirmation. Now what? Right? Now what? So I haven't even really chosen a deck yet. Did I say that? This is a deck that I was thinking of in my mind's eye. Let's see if it even wants to do the reading or not. Do you want to do the tarot readings? Yeah, okay. That was the Ace of Cups. I do that for every reading too. Consent over here. Is there anything else that I wanted to say? If you haven't subscribed to the channel, I would absolutely love it if you did, because honestly, community is becoming a big thing for me in what's next for me. So let's get on to the reading. Great. So this is a reading for Gemini. Let me see. There we go. Kind of. Does that make a difference? Wherever Gemini is in your chart, this is for you. So let's just see. Actually, I wanted to do a couple of these type of. Okay. That's better. What do you have for Gemini? What does Gemini need to know? Four of Wands. Harmony. Balance is actually coming to my mind, which is interesting. I don't know if I've ever thought of balance when I saw the Four of Wands, but it does talk about having like a firm foundation. Like when we talk about these 4 wands here, they're always set up most times when they're through depictions of the 4 of wands, it's usually like in a square, which kind of creates the idea of stability, foundation, security, which balance. Also, too, it almost looks like a window to me. And like this is the dream, this is the goal, the motivation even, because, wands are about the actions that we take, the motivation behind the actions that we take. I'm not going to take all of those. It is way too many. And usually too, by the time that we get to the 4 of wands, it does say that the actions that you have taken thus far have gotten you to this place. So even if this is like the current vision or like the current motivation, right? Like it would be because of the things that you have already tried, the energy that you have already put into a thing, the information that you've already acquired too. Then we have the Hierophant and the Hanged Man. When I was like sitting here staring at the Hanged Man, that song popped into my head. It might be, I know I've like only really heard it on TikTok, but it goes into the thick of it, into the thick of it. Yeah, I mean, just being literally in the thick of whatever it is for you. The Hierophant is the card of Taurus. What's going on in Taurus right now? Uranus is in Taurus. I think it's at like the later degrees of Taurus. I think it's going to be moving out of Taurus sometime this year. But Uranus is the planet of sudden change, sudden realizations, which is actually kind of funny because Taurus is not a sudden change type of sign, So like for the planet of sudden change to be in the sign that is not a fan of sudden change, like I can just feel the push and pull of that, or even too like the duality of that. But the Hierophant talks about higher consciousness, like higher knowledge. It's the passing along of information. So it does tend to talk about traditional institutions. But like, take for example, schooling, right? Like there is a teacher who already has a degree, most likely, already has experience, is already potentially an expert in a field, and they are there sharing, teaching, passing along knowledge to you, the student. I mean, of course, too, you could be on either end of this too, right? You could be the one who is receiving knowledge, like really being, again, into the thick of it, right? Like in the middle of, we have this vision, we have this goal, we have this motivation here, right? Whatever this would represent for you. Because too, the 4 of wands is also a card of celebration, harmony, union. It does sometimes talk about marriage. But, like, what is marriage also? It's the bringing together of two separate people, two separate, ideas, entities, whatever it is, right? And it's almost kind of committing them together. So I do find it interesting that there are not people depicted in this card. So sure, I mean, that could very well be your motivation. This would be a positive omen, for that, especially with a Hierophant. This could definitely talk about marriage. We do have the Hanged Man here, though, so it's not going to happen right away. So if that was your question, when am I going to get married? Not soon, unfortunately. Those are the cards that are out here. But like I said, it's interesting, though, that there are not people depicted in here. There is this castle on top of this hill. So it's almost like stability in the form of, like your life, your livelihood. What is the goal or the vision for the life that you want to build? And then with the Hierophant in the middle, it's like you don't have all of the information yet, especially with the Hanged Man. You don't have all the information yet. There are still teachers who haven't presented themselves yet, or that you haven't crossed paths with, or even, a job that you have, because, that's a traditional institution too, is your traditional type of work, right? Because even with that, there is usually a period of training, right? So somebody who already knows the business takes you through what the processes, the procedures, all of the day-to-day, things. So there is some level of training there, right? So it definitely could be work. A Hierophant can also be spirituality or religion. This is depicted as the Pope, But again, too, like even just having a mentor or guide there, exploring that. And with the Hanged Man here, the Hanged Man talks about suspension, delay, seeing things from a different perspective. So even like whatever this whole situation is, you may start to view it totally differently at some point. What is also really interesting about this specific Hanged Man, because too, I have heard of the Hanged Man being talked about in the sense of like enlightenment. And honestly, I just wanted to Google that really quick instead of like sitting here and trying to rack my brain around it. So the Hanged Man is associated with sacrifice, surrender, gaining a new perspective, which can lead to enlightenment. It's a card that encourages patience and a willingness to let go of old patterns to embrace transformation and spiritual growth. The Hanged Man can also represent a period of waiting or a temporary setback, but it ultimately points towards a more profound understanding and new insights. So again, right, like even like I was saying about being in the thick of it, this is, potentially where you're at right now, right? Like your current goal, motivation, like we were talking about, right? The window, like what you are seeing or perceiving right now. There could be new information that comes in, or just a new understanding, whether that be of yourself, of what this means for you. Because again, right, ultimately, this does talk about stability. And, what do you specifically, right? Like, what is your perception of stability? What does that look like for you? Right? And then whatever this Hierophant is, there's definitely something that you are gaining, that you are learning, being shown, being brought through to with this Hanged Man, what I was going to say before about this specific depiction of the Hanged Man and what made me even think of the enlightened thing is that we have these two, like tree trunks here, right? And we can see that the branches have been cut off here. And to me, when I look at this card, it's like, this bar might have even started down here at some point, right? And then those branches were cut off and it caused them to elevate, ascend, even gain more information, see things from, of course, a different perspective, even like being able to be high enough off of the ground type of thing. And also what is interesting is that to me, it feels like the branches that were cut off have become the wands. Here we have the 5 of Wands at the bottom of the deck, the 5 of Swords behind that, the Hermit card, talk about enlightenment. And like I was saying, right, being literally in the effing thick of it, because the 5 of Wands is about conditioning, training. It is, competition. There's, 5 wands, 5 different people in here. This could be actual people in your life, or it could be energies around you, limited beliefs, different motivations, right? I mean, this hand right here, this specific hand feels like, just because of, it looks like they're wearing a robe or something, it feels like it could be the Hierophant to me. I mean, that again, it could be all of the traditions that you were raised with, or again, right, limited beliefs that just kind of like found their way into your belief system. It could be, of course, other people too, and them having an opinion or an effect on what it is that you do, or what your stability is, or what it is that you believe, even with the Hierophant, because that's beliefs too. Even like, look at the tops of these wands here too. Like, doesn't it look like they could have been cut off of these tree trunks from the Hanged Man? It's so interesting. I only just had that realization, or like kind of started to feel that way as I was like starting to do these readings. It's just so interesting. Also, though, last thing I'll say about the 5 of Wands, I always think of Mulan with the 5 of Wands, because it like I was saying, it's conditioning, it's training even. And I was talking about the training aspect that, with the Hierophant. But in Mulan, right, when they show up to warrior training, everybody is like all in their ego, right? They're all arrogant. They're the ones that are badass at whatever they do, right? Like just being very, there's, no rapport there. It's very competitive, right? Like nobody is working together. But eventually, just by being in close proximity with each other, eventually there's a shift that happens. And they do learn to work together. They go into battle. They are successful, right? So that's like the 5 of Wands energy, is that like you are kind of being put through the ringer, but the purpose of that, or even being in the thick of it, the purpose of that is to set you up for success, to allow you to work through whatever these things are, to get clear on this vision, the motivation, the goal, to gain the knowledge, the information, to seek it out so that you are in a better place to be successful. The 5 of Swords. Interesting. Like we have 5, 5, 5. Isn't that interesting? Fives are transitionary energies. They're nothing to pitch a tent and get stuck in. They get you from point A to point B. It just may be uncomfortable in between that. The Five of Swords is ego. Swords have to do with our mindset, belief systems. The Hierophant very well may be out here having to do with your belief in what's possible, belief in, what this stability, this foundation is or is possible. I also see swords as being the suit of ego, because that is generally where we hear our ego is in our minds. And our ego is created by the stories that we've attached to experiences, to feelings. And it does become our belief system. It becomes our personality, our temperament, the reasons why we do and don't do things. This is kind of like a win at all cost type. This person is holding three swords. These people over here are defeated. And it's coming between the Hierophant and the Hanged Man. So it's kind of like if your motivation is to win at all costs, or to prove somebody wrong, to prove a belief wrong, to, if it's an ego story, a shame story, like Brene Brown calls them gremlins. If your motivation is to prove a story or a belief that either you have about yourself or that you think other people have about you, or you've carried around, for a while, if that's the motivation, that needs to change. That's the thing that the Hanged Man is there is a different perspective here. Or it's holding you up. It's causing this delay. And then, like I said, we have the Hermit. Again, talk about enlightenment. There's a lot that you are going to be discovering about yourself. A lot of truths are ready to be acknowledged, because they've always been there, but get kind of buried just under life. This is a card of Virgo, and it does talk about introspection, inner wisdom. It's literally getting quiet enough to hear your own guidance. It also talks about healing, self-healing, going on your own journey. Anytime the Hermit shows up, it's always, to me, a message about recognizing that your path, your journey is unique to you. And it's not going to look like somebody else's. It shouldn't look like anybody else's, right? So you can't compare yourself to literally anybody else. They're also being guided by the star here, which is faith, hope, which is also interesting, that we have the Hermit out here. Trusting the process, holding a vision, believing in your journey too. The Justice card. And then the World card after that. The Justice card is about the scales balancing, fairness, fate, karma, truth. I feel like truth, was I talking about that with the Hermit card? Honoring your truth, things balancing out. The World card is truly the end of a cycle, but it's the culmination, the completion is possible because you've gotten exactly what you needed to get. It's again, right, the goal actualizing, the vision actualizing, materializing, things coming full circle. I love it. Beautiful. I'm going to leave it there. Thank you so much for allowing me to read your cards. I will talk to you soon. Bye.